Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Stephanie Wilkinson. I'm Manager of Communications and Media with the Saskatchewan Public Safety Agency. Today, the SPSA will provide a technical overview of the wildfires in the province. Joining us online to provide an update is the SPSA's Vice President of Operations, Steve Roberts. We also have the SPSA's President and Fire Commissioner, Marlo Pritchard, available to answer any questions. We have a hard stop at 2 p.m. So ask members of the media to ask one question. If we have time remaining in the meeting, we will go to follow-ups, but we do have a hard stop at 2. So with that, I will turn it over to Steve Roberts for our update.
Good afternoon. So today in Saskatchewan, we have 19 active fires, 265 so far this year, and that's in comparison to 159 this time of year, which is our 5-year average. We continued to work on these fires to achieve containment with the intent of getting folks repatriated back into their communities and these fires secured while we have the advantage of favorable weather. To do that, we have Type 3 firefighters have joined our ranks on some of these fires, and we still continue to get out-of-province assistance from a number of agencies while we do that. Currently, the updates I have on the fires that are of note is the shoe fire has not grown in size in the last number of days, currently listed as 40% contained is our estimate on that fire. The Pisu fire, which is the one by L'Orange, has also not grown in size, is currently listed as 20% contained. And the Wolf fire, which is in the Denier Beach area, is listed at 30% containment. We still have a number of highways that are impacted, but for access, which is Highway 912, Highway 927, Highway 167, and Highway 106 by the Creighton entrance from the west. Also an update, so we have currently still about 2,000 people evacuated, 300 of those being supported by the Public Safety Agency. But we are seeing movement. We expect to see repatriation of Whalen Bay starting later today and tomorrow. We're looking at an estimate of Creighton and Denier Beach repatriating on June 22nd, which is Sunday. And we're looking for an announcement update on East Trout Lake later today on their status and when they may be able to return for assessments and seeing their properties as well. Values confirmed to date that have been burned by fire, 1,931. 299 of those are houses, 60 of those are cabins. In addition of note, the agency has been working with government partners to redistribute and allocate $3.8 million to communities for distribution to those impacted by evacuation activities. And again, that's $500 per resident over the age of 18 in those locations. And we will also be directly taking care of that activity as an agency to Denier. So we will be able to make arrangements to get them their recovery dollars once they repatriate here early next week. And as a note, government in general, the government of Saskatchewan is working and establishing a recovery task force, which will be leading the efforts on getting folks back to their houses and getting people and communities back up and running in full operational status. So that includes the rebuild, assessments involving insurance companies, town structures, and again, a number of activities that will have to take place for folks that have suffered loss due to these fires. So I'll turn it back to you, Stephanie.
Thank you, Steve. So now we'll open up to questions. As a reminder, one question, and please provide what media outlet you are from. Jeremy?
Hi there, Jeremy Symes with the Canadian Press. Just on Denier Beach, I understand there was maybe some temporary shelters going to be set up for them. I know Denier, the administration there is saying people need to have accommodations ready before they can return. So where is the SPSA at getting these temporary shelters, if I have that correct?
I can grab that, Steve. Thanks for the question. SPSA has set up a recovery task force. Stood up with members of cross government. We've got social services, government relations, environment, and of course SPSA. We will be meeting with those community leaders early next week and to determine what those needs are and how quickly we can address them. I have been personally in contact with the leadership of both Denair and Creighton, and we will, again, do that needs assessment and how quickly to support either in a temporary or more of a permanent fashion while the communities are being rebuilt. So I don't have a timeline, but I do know that we will be meeting with those community leaders next week.
Thank you, Marlo. Any other questions? Jillian?
Hi, I'm just wondering how your guys' cleanup efforts are going and if you guys have all of the supplies that you need at this point. I know that you guys still have that request in for some of that federal help with those base camps. I'm just wondering how, what the next few weeks are going to look like.
Steve, I'll let you take that one from a SPSA, repatriation.
Sure. I mean, in many of these locations, the impact by these fires have been even though people had to leave, the actual community impact has been, managed and been extremely low on some of these fires. But in areas where there are larger amounts of damage, Denair Beach is a good example, a subdivision like East Trout Lake. There's a number of steps that will have to happen. One will be is many of the homeowners will have to directly engage with their insurance companies as their primary supplier. We'll make arrangements for certain things and we'll obviously pay for some of those under insurance, but there'll need to be a coordinated effort on how that will take place. And a good example is if 20 people have to clean up, burnt structures and equipment around their places, or their houses are going to get cleaned up to be rebuilt, where does that go? What's going to happen at the landfill? How do they get that material to the landfill? Are there restrictions from an environmental point of view of what they can put in the landfill? So those are the types of things that have to work with the community. And then once they do get rebuilding and they get restructured, they might have to have their house recertified before they'll reinstall gas or power. So there's certain steps that will have to take place, and it has to be done in a very organized fashion. As you can imagine, you can't have 229 people all independently trying to talk to the town about getting their service and their power hooked up on the same day. It's just not, it's going to have to be a scheduled, organized event. So that's one of the reasons for the recovery task force, is to deal with those types of issues. Some of them may be very unique to a house or to a property, and some of them will be very common to almost every structure that was impacted, whether it was fully burnt or just partially burnt. So lots of work to come. And that's one of the reasons why I think we will be engaging with those community leaderships, because even in those communities, each one will be slightly different on services as well.
Thank you, Steve. Any other questions? Jeremy?
Yeah, thank you. Just the number of values that have been lost. Do you have like a more fulsome breakdown? I know you provided the Denair Beach one, I think, a couple days ago, but do you have any update on other communities?
We've just got a total. Now, again, we have assessed each of the communities, but again, some of these values are not directly inside a community. They may be adjacent, they may be remote. So we end up putting them all together rather than break them out. We'd actually have probably too many locations to break down and discuss on a single call. But we did break them down into categories. Like we said, we know it's 299 houses at this point, actual residences where people live full time, 60 cabins, which would be more of the recreational type cabins where it's not fully occupied year round. and vehicles. And vehicles are things like cars, trucks, motorcycles, just like you'd park in front of your house in the city of Saskatoon. So we do break them into categories for inventory purposes, but each individual will be working with their insurance company, with SGI, depending on their individual situation to get that cleaned up and get that fixed and set to right.
Thanks, Steve. Do a final call out for questions. Jillian?
Hi, Steve. I was just wondering, just since things have calmed down a little bit, can you tell me how firefighters are doing? You know, it's been such a big haul for them this season of just nonstop work. How are they doing?
Well, it was a couple issues. One is that we have been able to send some home that came in early on to help us. So many of our external partners have been able to return home. Some have just arrived to replace them, so they're fresh crews. Our staff, we have them on a rotation to ensure that they get days off. So that's just on the workload side. You have to realize that in many of these locations, our staff are working in situations where their families have been evacuated. Some of our staff have had actual values lost, structures lost that they own while they're working on these fires. So it's a different situation for our staff who live here and may have been directly impacted, just not impacted from a program, a job point of view. This is personal. These are their families and their neighbors. So we are monitoring that. We have a number of layers of health and wellness supports available to our staff, from 24-hour lines that they can call for support, programs that we have pre-established that they can get assistance for both them and their family if required. So again, it is a part of our regular programming to assess that our staff are getting the supports and the rest they need. And this little turn in weather has allowed us to rotate a bunch of these new crews in that we got from other locations and letting our staff sort of go back home, reset, get themselves refreshed, and then come back. We're unfortunately only about halfway through the fire season, so we have a fair bit of work for us before we get to snow time in the fall.
Thanks, Steve. And I don't see any further questions. Oh, we have one in the chat. It's for Marlo. With so many homes lost, what is the SPSA doing beyond insurance and the $500 payment to support evacuees who lost everything, especially?
Thanks for the question. That is one of the I guess objectives of the recovery task force. What is the true need for different individuals? We have some funding. We do know that there's some dollars from the Red Cross that will probably also be rolled up out at some point in time. But the recovery task force really will look at case by case basis and work with communities to support those individuals that have, unfortunately lost everything. So it's not going to be a short-term solution, and we will work with the coming days, weeks, months, and year if we need to truly support the individuals that have lost so much.
Thank you, Marlo. Okay, and final call. Looks like we have no further questions. So with that, that concludes our media availability for today. Thank you, everyone. Have a safe rest of your Friday.